down with a saw.
You're probably thinking, what is she talking about? Hey amigas, welcome back to another one of my videos. For those that don't know me, my name is Beverly, and for those that are returning, thank you guys so much for joining me today. In today's video, as you guys might have already seen by the title, I'm going to be showing you guys how I cut down my printable HTV rolls into sheets. And you're probably thinking, what is she talking about? Well, a couple months ago, I actually converted my Epson EcoTink 15,000 printer over to Solvent, which you'll find the video somewhere up here. And actually, whenever you are converting, you still have to cut down sheets as if it was paper because it's technically still a desktop printer. So I'm going to be showing you guys how I cut down the rolls, and then from the rolls, cutting them down to sheets. So let's go ahead and get started. So the printable HTV that I use, this one is from the brand SISER. It's Color Print Easy. And this one is also from the brand SISER, and this one is S Print. Now the difference between these two is that one is semi-gloss and one leaves you a matte finish. So you really do have quite a bit of options. You are not limited to these two. You actually have various brands and types to choose from, but these are two of the ones that I like to use. So let's go ahead and talk about the roll and how it's cut down to start. So initially when I buy the rolls, this one is a 30-inch wide roll, and initially to start this one was a 20-inch wide roll. So what I do, or my husband actually came up with the idea of cutting these down
with a saw.
Yes, with a saw, you heard that right. You cut these down into smaller rolls, so then when you have the smaller rolls, it's easier for you just to cut down the length to sheets. Going back in with my smaller 20-inch width roll, my husband was able to cut this down to 9 and 11, leaving this side over here for my infant, toddler, and youth t-shirt transfers, which I'm able to make them 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 14, and this side 11 width, I'm able to do 11 by 13 or even 11 by 17 for any of my medium to maybe XL t-shirt transfers for adults. And now to get bigger transfers, I use my 30-inch width roll, and I actually have my husband cut it down to 13, and what's left is actually 4 inches at the end, and this is the leftover remaining scraps. As you can see, it is a big chunk if you look at it this way, but you are not having all the scraps all over the place. They're all intact in one piece, and of course it's not going to waste. You can still cut out any and use this as YHTV for t-shirts just by simply cutting out your design and applying your own transfer tape as the carrier sheet, since these do not come with one. So because this one's already been cut down, I will go ahead and insert a clip of him cutting this one down yesterday for me, but I will put this aside and I will start prepping this roll so whenever he gets home, he can help me cut it down. And that way he's cutting over the tape so he can get a much cleaner cut. So let's go ahead and prep this one here. You will need some masking tape and some scissors. I'm just gonna take some masking tape and just kind of open it up, but not yet use it. I'm just gonna hang it on the side of my table. So with the roll like this, you wanna make sure that your tube is actually sitting correctly all the way down, and that you are able to tighten up your vinyl as best as you can, because it's very important. If you don't tighten up your vinyl, or you're not making sure it's super tight on the roll itself, which is the cardboard roll inside, you can actually honestly mess up the vinyl when you are cutting, because if you don't get it tight enough, it can actually cut wrong, and you definitely don't want that, and it can cut at a sideways angle, which has happened to us before. So I'm just gonna set it correctly, and there is a tube in the middle, so you can actually leave it there because the saw that we have actually can cut through it, and it actually sometimes helps to leave it on just to get more of a cleaner cut. But of course, if the tube like this one seems that it's not long enough, it's actually missing halfway through, you can actually remove it, but you would still have to grab this vinyl and tighten it up as much as you can before you go in with your first cut. So I'm just gonna apply this here. It looks like I have it pretty tight and secure. I'm just going to add masking tape to the beginning part of the roll, and you just really want to tighten it down as best as you can so nothing lifts in the process. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just roll it over and just securely apply this blue tape over. And you might be asking yourself, why do you have to apply masking tape? Well, it actually helps whenever he's cutting, so he's not cutting off, as well as it's cutting over the tape to give him a much cleaner cut. So there's this side. You can see that I've applied it already. Now we are going to apply this blue tape over the other edge. And now that I did the two ends, I'm also going to now go in through the middle and just tape it down so it is secure as well. Okay, so there you have it. So now going in with my ruler, I'm just going to measure from the end all the way until 13 and just really want to make sure I have another strip of tape here where he's going to be cutting. Okay, now once you have it down and ready to go, I'm going to go in with my Sharpie, just line it up once again. So I'm just marking it and I'm marking it over the tape, so that's where he knows to cut. And now doing the same, repeating the process from that starting point, bringing it over to another 13 inches and applying more tape all around on that side as well. Doing the same thing, we're going to start off at this point once again, and just to get a more precise 13 inches, I'm just going to mark it again with my Sharpie. Okay, so here you have it prepped. You can see the starting point is here, up until here, 13 inches. Now starting there to the next line, which is another 13 inches. So then we are just left with our 4 inches, just like these here. So in the meanwhile, while we wait for him to come home, I will go ahead and show you guys how I cut down the other two rolls that we now cut down from the original 20-inch width roll into sheets. So now to cut down the sheets from the smaller rolls that have already been cut down, we are going to need a self-healing mat. Mine's pretty beat up, but it still works. It is a 24-inch by 18. This is the perfect size, honestly. And as well as it needs to start with a 0, because some self-healing mats don't start at 0, so then you'll be losing an inch. So if you don't have the 0 on yours, you need to start at 1 and then add an inch at the end. It's very common for that to happen. So going in with the smaller roll, this one is technically a 9, but pretty much when you cut down, you do lose about an inch, but it's no issue. We'll just call this our 8.5-inch roll. I'm just gonna go and start in at 0. So we're gonna bring it here, start at 0, bring it in, and just line it up, and you want to roll it out until the 11-inch mark, or if you wanted wider, you just have to go ahead and do the 14. So technically this one, the width will always be the 8.5, and then the length, you can just honestly cut it down as long as you want, but the most common ones are always 11 or 14 for the 8.5 inch. Okay, I just kind of faced it my way just so I can see a little bit better when I'm cutting, but I'm just rolling out the roll, and this is 8.5 here, and we're going to do by 11, and then we'll do another one by 14. So I'll just go ahead and add my ruler, and I like to line it up right on the 11. You want to be as precise as possible, but I could already see the line marked there because I've been using it a lot. I'm just going to open this, retract back, and I am going to go in and get my first sheet. So there you go, you have your 8.5 by 11-inch sheet ready to go. Let's do the 8.5 by 14 now. So starting off again at the front, lining it up over on 0, sliding it over until 14. So we'll just line it up here with our ruler on the 14 mark. The good thing about this one is that the lines will either go from dotted lines to straight lines for each number, so that way you know you're on the right number. Going in with our rotary cutter again, adding pressure, and here you have it. Here is your 8.5 by 14-inch sheet. Now for our 11-inch width roll, I'm going to be going in to remove all this blue tape. As you can see, we have not used this one since he cut it down yesterday, so I'm just going to be removing this tape off, and we are going to cut this one down to 11 by 13 and also 11 by 17. Same thing, we are going to line up the vinyl here on the 0 starting point, roll it out, super easy. Make sure it's lined up, which it is, and it's lined up down here. I'm going to go in with this ruler, and we have 11, and I'm going to do 13. Going in again with my rotary cutter. So here you have it. This one's your 11 by 13 sheet, or if you want to call it your 13 by 11-inch sheet. Either way. Okay, and the next one I'm going to be cutting down is my 11 by 17-inch sheet. You can see obviously the more that you stretch it out, the longer it gets, which converts it technically into a bigger sheet, which this is a really cool technique that I learned and I really did love, because this way you can make your transfers different sizes by using one roll, cutting it down and making technically 4 different sizes. So here you can see I have my 11 by 17 inch sheet.
3 hours later.
Okay, amigas, so we are back now. He's here now, and this is the miter saw that I bought. It is specifically just for cutting down my vinyl. I know it might sound crazy, but whenever you are running a business and you know you're doing a lot of transfers, you have to improvise sometimes. So it is now measured, like we mentioned, 13, 13, and then the 4 that's going to be on at the end. So I'll just go ahead and record the process and just show you guys the end result. All right, so this is what we're left with. We are left with our rolls. As you guys can see, we have no jagged edges here. Everything's cut out super nice and good. These both are the 13 and 13, and then we have our little leftover roll here, and you can tell that with the tape it's a lot more secure. And look at those sharp edges. I really do love this hack. You guys have to let me know if you guys are going to try it out. All right, now that we have our 13-inch width cut down, our other 13-inch width cut down, and our 4-inch leftover piece, I'm just going to take one of them, which is this one, and I'm going to show you guys how I cut down my vinyl. And I can make either sheets. I can do 13 by 15 or 13 by 19. Keep in mind that my printer is an Epson EcoTink 15000, so the biggest size sheet it can print is a 13 by 19, so that is why I have my width as that. But also, if you think about it, I can still do an 11-inch length because this is already 13 width, so I can still do the 11 by 13 as well with this size sheet here. So the really cool thing about this roll here is that you can do 11 by 13, and you can even do 13 by 15 or 13 by 19, which are the 3 common sizes that I do use anyways. So when I run out of the other roll, I can simply just cut off this one to do the same, and it will be the exact same size. Just give me a minute and I'll show you guys. I'm gonna line it up on the 0, and like I said, this roll came out a lot nicer. So I'm just lining it up here, and then we're lining it up there to the dotted line, and I am just going to simply bring it up, use my ruler, and I'm going to do one that is 11 length, which would be another 11 by 13, or 13 by 11 in this case, I should say. I'm just going to go ahead and cut. Okay, there it is, same length as before, because the width was 13 to start, and then now the length I cut it down to 11. Okay, now I'm going to do the 13 by 15. So I'm just going to bring this down, measure it up, make sure it's on my line, and then here we are. Just going to do the 15. And I don't know why, I honestly like using this ruler a lot more. I know it's thinner. You might think it might be harder to hold, but it's really not in my case. So I prefer the thinner one. I'm just gonna put pressure, be careful. And there you have it. This is your 13 by 15 sheet. And now for the biggest one, I'm going to show you. And remember, you just always wanna stay on that dotted line to make sure you're cutting straight, you're not cutting at an angle. So I'm just doing the 0, and now we're going to do 19, which is almost at the end of my mat, and it's really, really big. I usually use these for multiple transfers on one sheet, not so much me printing one big transfer because I think it's too big. So I'm just going to go in and just do that. And super simple, you guys. And this is my 13 by 19 sheet, and look how big, you guys. Let's go ahead and compare all of them now. Alright, amigas, so this is the final conclusion of it all. These two, again, are 13-inch width rolls. This one is an 11-inch width roll. and this one is about an 8.5 inch width roll. So with that, off of this small one here, I was able to get the 8.5 by 11 sheet. And with the same small one here, I was able to get the 8.5 by 14 sheet. Just the length is the one that changed. That was this one here. And with the upsize, this one, I was able to get our 11 by 13 traditional sheet that I use a lot off of this roll, which is a width 11. Also the 11 by 17 sheet. It's the same width, length is just longer. And with these two, which are the same, our 13-inch width rolls, I was still able to get an 11 by 13 sheet. Same thing, which is really cool. And I was able to get our 13 by 15 sheet, which is 13 this way, 15 that way. And also, last but not least, with our 13-inch width rolls, I was able to get a sheet that is 13 by 19, which is the biggest my printer can print. Isn't that cool? So with these, I was able to get about 3 different sizes that I personally use. Yes, you can obviously get more in between, but those are the ones that I use. With the medium size one, I was able to get 2 sizes that I use. And with the smallest one being that, I was able to get also 2 different sizes. So honestly, I do think it's very worth it to jump around from the 20-inch width roll to the 30-inch width roll, just depending on what size transfers you use more of or that you print more of. That way you determine what's the best fit for you. Do you like the 20-inch width roll, or do you like the 30-inch width roll with the additional 4 at the end? Remember, it's not to be wasteful. You can still use this to create any designs just with white HTV using that masking sheet as your carrier sheet. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I hope this has helped in case you guys were wondering on how I cut down my vinyl. Maybe this will give you guys an idea to improvise and save some vinyl and create less scraps at your home. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Make sure you guys are subscribed if you haven't already, and leave me a nice comment down below with any other ideas or video ideas I should come with soon. And yes, stay tuned for my second part on the Echo Solvent printing. It's coming soon. I'll see you next time. Bye!